Morning everybody, nice lazy Saturday here. I'm back out in the garage, and today we're gonna kind of focus on the inside of the car, the cockpit. Can't really do much without the in the back of the car until we get intake manifolds, and that's what these are. Well, these aren't intake manifolds, these are the boots for the intake manifold. They're gonna connect the T to the end castings. But got this package in the other day from Hot Systems. Bought it on my favorite platform, eBay. It's a boost gauge, and it's labeled boost gauge. I'm hoping it's a vacuum slash boost gauge. The one I have in the car right now, it's just an older analog unit that works just fine. The reason I'm changing it out is I had to check and see what's going on with the GoPro. Alright, back here. Forgot where I was at. Oh, had to change battery in the GoPro. And the one thing I don't know, maybe there's some settings, maybe someone on the YouTube knows, but ever since I put this mic in the GoPro 4 Silver, I can't see the screen here. I don't know if that's just a default mechanism or if there's a setting in there. Haven't quite dug into it far enough to figure it out. But anyways, back to the gauge. The one I run in the car is just an analog old gauge. It works just fine, other than the fact that it's got a needle on it, and you kind of got to look at the needle and see where it's pointing at the number. This should be digital, with big letters, easy to see with these old eyes. I'm hoping it'd be easier when I just glance over there really quick to see if it's at 15 or 18 or 20, and then I can kind of compare it with the data log I get off of the ECU, the MS2, and kind of can compare them, you know, see where the peak's at. I don't think there's any data logging capability with this. Don't really need it because I've already got a map sensor built into the computer where I get the data logs. But the other thing is this is going to run one electrical wire to the back of the car or wherever my sending unit is going to be. It'll probably be underneath the back seat where the close to the computer where the MS2 is sitting at. Right now there's a T and a vacuum line in the engine compartment, and then there's a small plastic hose that runs all the way to the front of the car where the gauge is at. And I'm always afraid that that's going to get a pinhole or a leak of some sort, and I'll wind up with a vacuum leak or inaccurate, I can talk today, inaccurate readings. And also in the process, I'm going to have to pull the seat, and I can address some more wiring issues and a brake line issue. It's underneath the seat that kind of gets in the way of my foot. It's one of the other things I wanted to do this winter. But yeah, let's get this opened up and see what's inside. All right, here's the goodies. Got instructions, or some other guy's opinion. Mounting hardware, the gauge, and I do remember reading, I don't know if you can see it in here, but it says warning. There's actually a red light that comes on that tells you if you're over boosting. I think it comes on at 29 pounds. I don't know if I'll ever see 29 pounds. I think my turbo on the car is only capable of about 25 pounds on a good day. But the new one I got coming in, or I'm going to be putting on eventually, is probably capable of doing that. Your sending unit, a plastic T. I'll probably change that over to brass. I know plastic's lighter, but I trust brass more. Some vacuum line hose, which I'll be running black, not that. And then looks like some type of a little filter. I didn't know that was going to be in there. And I probably already said sending unit. But, oh yeah, and then the wiring harness. So I'm assuming if we go by some other guy's opinion, red's going to go to red, green's going to go to green, and black's going to go to ground. So looks like I'm going to have to find two wires to run through the car. I'm hoping when that mess that I got going on in there, I may have two spare lines. You know, throughout the years of adding and removing things, sometimes you wind up with extra wires. And I was able to do that with the fuel pressure gauge. I just used the same wiring that I use for the head temperature gauge. But I don't know if I have two extra wires. If not, a trip to the hardware store is always fun. But yeah, let's proceed to start removing things. My apologies for the heater again. We're still not quite into March. Well, by the time this video airs, it'll be March, but I love these instructions here. Hopefully you can see them in the GoPro, but we've got one set of instructions for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different types of gauges. But this guy's opinion, instructions are just somebody else's opinion, says the red goes to the ignition switch, the black goes to the battery or the ground, and then the green goes to the boost sensor. So I think the way the car's set up, I can only have to run one wire through the cockpit, because I can get to my ignition switch and the ground at the front of the car, and then for the sending unit also has the same 3 wires. I can hit my ignition back by the MS2, and a ground, of course, back there, and then the green I'd have to run through the floorboard up to the gauge. So hopefully maybe I've got one spare wire running through the car. Only one way to find out, and like I said, let's start digging in. All right, here is the mess we were talking about. So all the way back through to the back of the car, to the real big mess I got. Wires galore. But I actually have 2 brake lines in here. One's a brake line, the other one was running at one time, was a fuel line. But now the fuel line is all A&N. It runs on the outside of the car. But the brake line should actually, let's get some light up front there so you can see. There we go, messy floorboard again, but the brake line should actually run, get this hung, should actually run, like come out here and actually turn and then go along the floor in the tunnel here. Apparently I was either trying to conserve brake line back in the day, or I just, well, probably didn't know what I was doing. But yeah, it should turn, make a 90 and then another 90. That way your heel's not hitting on it. So yeah, time to address all this. But one thing I am proud of, 1956 Volkswagen, original floorboards. I think they used better steel back in the day than they did like in the 70s, because most people usually wind up replacing their floorboards. I do have a couple of holes I need to address too underneath the ECU here. If I'm going to start driving this thing more. I did get caught in the rain last year and was worried, and did get some water on the floorboards. I know you don't normally try to drive in the rain, but underneath the battery I did replace a small piece over there, but the rest of the car is all original over there. Yeah, I probably mentioned before, I did replace the heater channels on this car, and in that time I was learning to weld, but I'm still learning to weld. But that's kind of why I bought this car, so I could play with the MIG. Okay, we're back in the car. Got the gauge, the old gauge removed and the new gauge installed. And I do like the fact that it matches the other gauge. And we did remove the old wiring, and the new wiring comes down through here. Got the big rat's nest here. One of these days, maybe I'll need to make that a future winter project, but the positive is hooked up to the ignition switch. The ground is hooked to a ground, and then I was actually surprised. I went through my stash and found me some green wire. It just happened to be enough to run to the back of the car where the sending unit is. So go to the back of the car. Here is the sending unit. I've got it teed in. You can see that down there into where the there's the T where the vacuum line goes. And the next step is going to be to hook the green wire to the green wire, and then over here is the big mess, the ECU, and then the board on top of it, the relay board. I'll hook into the ignition over there, and I'll hook into the ground over here. Yeah, I know, in the near future, like I said, I'm gonna have to do another winter build where I clean all these wires up. It is starting to look like a cobbled mess, but that's how I roll. Find some nice blocks. But what I'll do is, if you can see these relays there, I'm going to mount this as soon as I find myself a screw over here on this side. Mount the sending unit over here so it's out of the way and not bouncing around. So yeah, let's get to wiring. Well guys, a moment of truth. Peel the tape off now and hope this thing works. I've gone through the liberty of removing the fuse that runs the fuel pump and the ignition, so we don't have any unnecessary fuel flying around, because still got the intake manifolds off, and the injectors out of the ports and everything, so you don't need to start any unnecessary fires. But yeah, let's give the old key here a turn and see if things light up. I don't know what we're really going to see here, other than to see that the gauge will light up. Can't see if it's going to move around. It'll probably run, or probably show 0, because there should be any vacuum or any boost. But yeah, let's give her a shot. And nothing happened. The other gauge came on, but what am I missing here? Let's go take a look. Alright folks, in the haste of doing some wiring, I think I hooked that positive to the gauge to my light switch block there. It's been I've been wiring this car for 20 some years now, removing, adding, removing, and once in a while you do kind of forget, and I was too lazy to get the test light out and do some testing. But I moved it around, got the test light out, tested which one was going to be the ignition block, and let's see if it lights up now. There we go. Like I said, it should say 0, and it says 0. And this will warm up the O2 sensor and eventually read whatever the air-fuel ratio is at this time. Probably 22, because we're not running any exhaust through the exhaust. But once that warms up, it'll should read something. Here, there we go, 22.4. O2 sensor is now warmed up. So let's turn her back off. But yeah, that wasn't too hard. Wasn't too hard. That does help. That had a gauge in there previously, and knowing the car, not having to find where the ignitions and stuff are at. Well, did have a little mishap there, but yeah, I'm looking forward to getting the intake manifolds back on, and I think I heard the mailman, actually Jeremy, he did drop them off today. So yeah, stay tuned for that. I got some work to do on those, do a little trial fitting, and hopefully get them installed and the car running, and get it out, warm it up a little bit, and probably pull it back in the garage and drain out the oil so I can get some fresh oil in it for this year's fun. But yeah, stay tuned, and be sure to subscribe. If you have any comments, please leave a comment, and hit that like button. Thumbs up. Keep the flat side down and the shiny side up. Take care. Oh yeah, before I get going too far too fast, I still got this mess to take care of. Oh, I'm not looking forward to messing with that brake line. I'm hoping I can get it bent without having to replace it. But if I gotta replace it, gotta replace it. And bam! Just like movie magic. It's done. Sometimes I even surprise myself. A couple of nice little tweaks, and it should be comfortable.